Could you go broke playing the spec game? Let's talk about how to avoid that on this video from Bronzeville Comics. Hey there, comic book community. This is Jim from Bronzeville Comics coming to you with another video. And today we're going to talk about spec comics and how to avoid losing money in this game. Before we get started, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, please give us a subscription, comment down below, give us a like, share the video. Also, you can follow us on Instagram, Bronzeville_comics, on Whatnot, Bronzeville_comics, and every Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, we do a Whatnot auction. So join us over there, find some good books. We'll be usually previewing the books in the auction on Instagram. So in this video, recently I had a comment on one of my speculation videos where the poster said that they lost too much money and now stuck with books with a previous track record. And I was wondering, number one, if they lost money in the 1990s or lost money recently. And let's talk a little bit about how to avoid losing money. The first rule is do not spend money you don't have. The best thing to do is open up a separate account for your comic books, apart from your personal account. You want to still be able to pay the bills, pay the rent, put food on the table, be able to send your kids to college, and keep your significant other from leaving you. So have money set aside for comic books. It's really great to say, okay, I'm going to find the value here. And this is what happened to people in the 90s, is this is going to be worth a lot in the future. Understand that might not necessarily be the case. This is a little bit of a risk. And with any investment, do your own research. You know, don't listen to myself or anybody else on YouTube. Do your own research, make your own decisions. But my first word of advice is have money set aside for comic books. Okay, and that's really why we play the speculation game, is let the hobby fund itself. Yeah, I'd love to get those big keys. I'd love to have a copy of Showcase number 4 or Fantastic Four number 1 or Marvel Spotlight 5. But I have to prioritize where the money's being spent. Rule number 2, do not buy the peak. If you're getting those top 10 videos or top 10 lists or watching videos of the hot comics that list from Comic Tom or whatever it is, it's too late. You've missed the opportunity to buy into those books. What is a good idea is to keep those books in mind, because sometimes you go to a show, you go to a flea market, and people haven't seen those lists. That's the time to buy it. That's not the time. When they make a top 10 list, that's not the time to go on eBay and try to find that book, because you're going to be paying peak market value for that book. Now, if you really do your research and figure the book is going to go higher, that's a different story. But for the most part, once they make those lists, it's because they've had a new high sale. Is another new high sale just around the corner for you? More than likely not. Rule number 3. Does it make sense? Is it sense or is it nonsense? Sense, nonsense. A great example of nonsense is Spidey Super Stories number 39, the first appearance of the Thanos copter. During the Loki TV series, there were a whole bunch of Easter eggs to different things in the Marvel Universe. One of them was the Thanos copter. It was in the background, just kind of a fun little in-joke for, I believe it was a 1977 book, Spidey Super Stories number 39, which was a kid's comic in the 70s based on the Spider-Man character who appeared in the PBS series, The Electric Company. And those stories were written for kids. It was a fun read. It was kind of goofy. You know, Thanos had his own helicopter, and eventually he was arrested by the NYPD. I think Thanos would be a little too powerful to be, whatever. It was a fun read. But people got the FOMO and bought the book. And it's nonsense because you're never going to see the Thanos copter again. We might not even see Thanos again. That book in a 9.8 in February of 2021, there was a high sale of $104. Now, Spidey Super Stories is a book that people collected as a child. I'm sure there are people who want high-grade copies in their collection, but they're a very small segment of the collecting community. When the Thanos copter hit, the book went as high as $164 in a CGC 9.8, and now the highest sale, and that was in the summer of 2021, the highest sale in a 9.8 in 2022 has been $50, less than a third of the peak, because it was nonsense. That book was not going to have any continued value. Now, if you remember reading that book as a kid and you really wanted it, it's for your personal collection, it's one thing. That was not a speculation book. That was nonsense. And it kind of leads to the next rule. Does the book have intrinsic value? Other than potentially speculation in a movie or TV property, is this a character that has held, or we figure will hold, within the comic book collecting community? There are certain characters, and there are the blue chip keys, you know, Silver Age keys, Bronze Age keys, even Copper and Modern keys, that have intrinsic value. Right? We have heard rumors of Ghost Rider. Marvel Spotlight 5 has intrinsic value. Now, the actual value of that is debatable. It's never going to go down to zero. I bought a copy of Fantastic Four 44. Paid good money for it. That book has intrinsic value. Even if the Silver Surfer and Galactus never appear in the MCU, the book is still going to have value because those are characters that are well established in Marvel Comics. And over the long run, the book will not lose value. So, know the characters, know the history of the comics. That's a really beneficial thing. Don't just go off somebody else's hot list. Use that to inform your decisions and look at common threads to maybe make decisions on your own about similar trends that you could see happening. Do your research. Do your research about the property. Has it just been optioned? Is it been filmed? Is it potentially going to be filmed? Right now, the value of Super Friends number 7 is less than it was 2 weeks ago because Discovery Warner canceled the Wonder Twins movie. That book still has some intrinsic value, but it does not have the value that it had when people thought that this book was going to go to an HBO Max film. So, do your research. More importantly, for research on current books, what is the current value, and does the book have future value? When you look at fair market value on one of these websites, look to see, does the book, how many sales does the book have? And also, how recent are those sales? I'll give you an example. A book that was hot for a while, very hot, very popular book, was Amazing Spider-Man 55. And the other printings and variations of that, the Patrick Gleason webhead cover. Now, in January and February of 2021, that book sold anywhere from $87 to $200, hitting a high of $317 in March. Now, the last, more recent 9.8 sales over the last 6 months are in the $60 to $70 range. The two most recent sales I saw on eBay were $48 and $66, and you can buy it now. You can get a copy for $75. So even though the fair market value of that book is a little bit higher, those are old sales. Okay? Look over the timing of the book. especially for modern books, and especially for books that have been hot at one point and may not continue that heat. It's a very attractive cover, and a lot of people want it. But basic economics, supply and demand. How many people want it, and how many people still want it that didn't get it, especially when we're looking at moderns in a 9.8. That goes to the next rule, is what is the supply of the book? Now, Amazing Spider-Man 55, when that book got hot just over a year ago, 9.8 sales were in, the $100 to $200 range. Those were 9.8s that were already slabbed. If in February, when this was making top 10 lists, if you bought a raw copy, let's say for $50, and then paid all the CGC fees, maybe you're going to break even. Because now you sent it out to CGC, now the supply is increased. And maybe you're still waiting for it. But there's that supply versus demand, especially for modern books. There are plenty of 9.8 sitting out there that are raw, that people just haven't submitted yet. There are plenty of them. Which brings us to our next point, is be patient. If this is a book that you think has speculative value, you don't need to go out and have a copy right now. That FOMO again. Look for it. Look for it at the right price. Even on eBay. Look at books that are listed that are deals. If you can get it at a deal, if you have a book that sells for $150 in a CGC 9.8, and you can find it in a 9.8 candidate for $10, $5 in a $2 bin, go at it. Get it every day of the week. Even if you sell it raw, you're going to make a profit. But if you're chasing it, saying, oh, this is a hot book right now, I'm going to find a high-grade copy, I'm going to submit it to CGC, and I'm going to make more than what it's selling for now, that's probably not going to work out for you. Now, supply, if the book is a bronze book or a silver book, or even older, the supply is very limited. Another example, Amazing Spider-Man 361. People, when the Carnage movie was announced and the trailer hit, people started looking for that book in their own collections and submitting it. And the number of graded books increased and increased and increased. Well, was that supply outweighing the demand? Eventually, yes, it was. Now, the book still has value because it has intrinsic value, because Carnage is a popular character. But understand the time it's going to take for you to take a raw book, submit it to CGC and get it back, especially if you get it pressed by CCS, is going to be significant. Is the book still going to be worth that in the future? For the most part, this ties into the supply piece. The book is out there. And especially if you want the book for your personal collection, be patient. You can find it. You don't have to own every single comic book that comes along. Do you believe in the book? Is this a book that you personally feel has value? Or is it a book that a YouTube video told you has value? Even my own. Don't believe everything I say. I believe in certain books. Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. And there are books that I have bought and bought numerous copies. Now the price of those copies, because more and more information has come out about movies or TV properties where the fair market value is above what I want to spend for it. I see it at shows, too pricey for what I'm willing to pay. If I see it for a deal, I'll take it. And then, kind of my last rule is be prepared and willing to sell your book. I am a collector by nature, so I like to hold on to the books. And especially if you think the book is going to have future value, you hold on, you hold on, you hold on. That's all money that you don't have in your account. Or if you're looking to have a windfall payday, it might not come. Understand when the book is hottest, when the book is popular. And this ties into supply again. How many of them are out there? If it's, for instance, the Thor Thor, Love and Thunder, trailer dropped. Thor #1 featuring the first appearance of Jane Foster in a 9.8. Dozens of those came to market. The number of sales increased, but the price pretty much stayed the same. So understand, how much more is the price going to increase as we get closer to that movie? And if it's not going to increase, it might be time to move your copy. And again, this is speculation. How much are you into it for? If you bought it as a 9.8, maybe you sell it at a slight profit, or even when you figure in fees and everything else, if you sell it on eBay for a slight loss. But it's better than holding on to a book that has temporary value and not having the opportunity to purchase something that you may really want in the future, especially for a high leverage book. And understand that the market undergoes fluctuations. Now, a big blue chip key, an amazing Spider-Man key, a Fantastic Four 1 or 5 or 48 or 52, those are always going to have value. And there's certain times, like a Fantastic Four 52 is a good example, where the value has been set. It's not going to lose value. It's worth a lot more relative to other books than it was 20 years ago. But it's not really going to, relative to other books of its era, it's not going to lose value because there's that fan base that has been established. So understand that. The other thing, too, is if you're going to speculate on modern books, even if you're going to buy the books fresh from your LCS, be prepared to sell. Okay? If you think that the book has value going forward, and you've heard that it might be optioned, or it's introducing a new character that you think is exciting, if everyone else thinks it's exciting, that supply is going to be pretty high. Miracle Molly. What's best to do is, if, let's say, the book is selling for 3 times cover price a month after it comes out, and you bought 10 copies, sell 2 or 3 of them. Break even, then the other books are essentially free. Be willing to sell. Don't be greedy that you want to get top dollar for every book that you've ever bought. So if you have any other ideas, leave them in the comments. These are just a few of my ideas and my experiences of getting back in the collector game for about a year. I go back to the be patient, especially for modern books. They're going to turn up. I see them. I have friends who see them that find books for almost nothing that have real value at garage sales, at flea markets, because not everybody does the same amount of research that people who are serious about collecting comics do. Some people buy lots of comics and just want to move them. So understand, the opportunity is there. There is somebody that's going to find an Ultimate Fallout 4 for $2 at a flea market. It might not be you, and it might not be me, but there's somebody that's going to do that. There are books that are out there. I buy collections. Sometimes the best values are in buying collections, because you pay X amount of dollars for a collection, and then all of a sudden you have a book in there that when you bought the collection was a $2 book, and now 3 months later there's movie speculation news and it's a $50 book. The problem is you have to have that item on hand, and you have to keep it around, and then you have to find it, which is a problem on my end. That's a personal thing. So understand, the other thing too is, I said at the beginning, don't spend money you don't have. That includes not only buying the book, but all of the things that go along with it. The new bags and boards. If you're buying collections, maybe you need to buy a storage facility. The time that you are putting into it. Factor all of those things in and see if it's worth your while. Time, maybe more so than other things, would be worth your while, because if this is something you enjoy, it's something you enjoy. Gas, tolls, going to places to find books. All of those things add up, and they're all costs associated with putting into the books. So speculation is buying and selling. Don't hold on to everything. Be prepared to sell, and do your research. That's a hugely important factor. Again, if it's on a top 10 list, somebody else has done that research. If it's something you believe in, even if you think there's been no announcement, but you think this is a character that's undervalued, that is going to be in the movie someday, go for it at the right price. So hopefully these are some pointers that you can use to not lose money. Let the hobby fund itself. Be willing to sell books. If you bought it at $5, it's now worth $50. Even if you think it's going to be worth $100, maybe you can sell it for a profit right now. Right? Anyway, this is Jim. We got a couple of other videos here and here. Monday Whatnot, 10 o'clock. Come and join us. We're going to have some fun books in there. And this is Jim saying until next time, enjoy your comics.